It's better late than never for a Cetia should you pull video, and you know that I love my fire units. So let's take a look at her kit and decide whether she's worth your time. We're going to start by talking about her gameplay style, but before that, I have a goal. And that goal is to make it to 5,000 subscribers. So please subscribe to the channel, like the video, help me out. I appreciate all of the support. Now, talking about Cetia's gameplay style, she is a 100 cost fire unit that uses long range missile attacks to flame your opponents. She has innate missile and defense penetration and can further raise her defense penetration with the sniper sub job. She also has a combination of damage, but also supports and debuffs, so she can really help out your team, although primarily in a fire squad. Her accuracy has been a big concern for people, but her kit has a lot of other interesting aspects, and we do have ways to stack accuracy. Cetia's TMR is the Bright Flame Mantle. It's an accessory and it gives you some spirit, agility, as well as some accuracy and HP. The ability has one use and it grants 25 missile attack up as well as a 20 AP restore, 32 if you count actually using the ability. This is a solid skill for Cetia because she doesn't actually have a missile attack buff like aim fire on her kit. However, she still might want bells or some other agility TMR that is going to give her a buff for movement or something to buff her teammates with. So you might not want to use it. It's not the greatest TMR that I've ever seen, but it certainly is filling a gap in her kit. Next up is stats, and Cetia's 486 attack is 36 in the game, but her damage also scales off of her big dexterity stat. Her HP is great for a missile unit specifically, and her agility is only okay at 62. However, she does have an agility TP buff that's pretty good. 208 luck is concerning for sure. This is where people are seeing where she gets her low accuracy from. It's very low for the evasion meta, and it's definitely the biggest demerit on her kit. Cetia's AP is average, but she does have a 25% AP consumption decrease, which you'd love to see. If you can get her enough AP at the start of a fight, she'll just be able to sling arrows for the entire duration of that match. If you're wondering about going to 115 versus 120, the biggest stat jump you're going to get is 57 attack. You also get 200 HP, which is nice, but the way that I look at my ranged units is they're not supposed to be taking too much damage and they're not supposed to be bruisers. If they can survive a hit, it's great. Otherwise, they're just supposed to kill other people. So at job level 25, you also get a new attack with a 25 defense break, and the skill is good. Obviously, a defense break is very, very powerful. You can really punish people with low defense because you can go below 0, but I think that Cetia could be used at 115 and still be viable if you want to go for a slow build, but your end goal should still be to raise her all the way to 120. But if you want to save up for the anniversary, I think you could go to 115 and then save 200 mind spheres, but it obviously depends on what type of player that you are. Now, I just talked about how survivability isn't as important for me with a ranged unit. However, Cetia has a kind of interesting aspect to her kit, which is 30% magic resistance, and she gets another 20% from her Fire Blessing TP skill. That also gives 20% slash resistance, so she could actually be built to take on slash and magic resist units. She has 15% from whatever the Viking passive is to give her missile resistance as well. At the end of the day, you pair this with your high HP and she could take a few hits, but she will be ultimately used with a tank, especially someone like King Mont, and I think that hopefully they'll be diverting people away from her. And she also has reflex, so you can just kind of roll the dice on that one, and I think you're going to be okay. She's still not a bruiser, and I think it's kind of a misleading direction actually in her kit to suggest that you should go for these resistances, because I'd rather be building towards her using upping her damage or going for things like status effects. So when you have this kind of thing in your kit, maybe it's a live manual thing. If people can just target, like tanks aren't as useful, then maybe oh, there's tons of slashers. Well, I'm going to build up some slash resist. But if you're just going playing on auto, then I think you'd rather her be using other TP skills because she has a lot of really good TP skills. Cetia can support your team in a lot of different ways. She has the ability with her TMR to give your party some missile attack, but she also on her main kit can give single target resist, and that's very, very powerful to be able to give single target resist. You pair that with King Mont's TMR, you have AoE resist, and all of a sudden you can become pretty bulky bulky if you use that on your tank. Now, target share is a 30% attack buff, which she loves. That's on her sniper sub job, which I think you will use because of the barrier break. She's going to work great in fire teams because of her 38% fire imperil on her LB, but then her defense break is going to enable any physical attackers. So she has lots of ways to help your team deal more damage, but also protect them and make them a little bit more bulky. Now it's time for the fun facts / miscellaneous. I'm going to jam this all into one segment of the video. Here we go. So Cetia can inflict stun and berserk on your opponents. However, the berserk is on her sub kit and you're probably using sniper, so she might not be using that. But stun, very, very potent. She can also remove re-raise. Regardless if she hits or not, the effect still takes place. That is from a nerf a while ago that kind of hurt evade a little bit. Even if a unit misses, some skills still apply their effects. She also has frostbite resist and sleep resist and a minor berserk resist. You know, none of these jump out to me as too important, but you know, there's some PvE situations where this might be pretty good. She deals physical damage, and I wanted to mention that it actually bypasses magic reflex, and a lot of people are saying, you know, well, yeah, obviously, and a lot of physical units can be used in general for that, but I just feel like there's been so many magic-based teams lately. There's way more magic-based teams than there ever were in the past, and we all complain about magic reflex. Well, here's someone that when they shoot at Jaden or one of the other magic reflexers, they're not even gonna be able to proc that because she deals physical damage. But she also has counter reduction and healing reduction on her large AoE ability. That's really cool. You can hit a huge range of units and there's gonna be no Aeon bond, there's gonna be no accuracy decrease or whatever Elena does, and there's gonna be no reflex, magic reflex, any of that BS. Cetia's limit burst is very specific. It has a 200 times mod, but it carries this 38% fire imperil. Now, if you've grabbed Cetia and you don't have a strong fire account, you're just looking to just put her into other teams, maybe a missile team, then you don't necessarily need to level this limit burst. Of course, it's going to help her deal more damage, but that's really only if she hits a tank with it, because you hope that she kills most people or would kill them in 2 hits anyway. So if you have a fire unit that would follow up on a target, then yes, the fire imperil is super important and you would want to actually level this LB. The AP cost is very high, so you might even turn it off if you don't have fire units that you're going to pair her with, and you'd rather her just use her other skills and save her AP, but that also depends on whether you're using bells or not. So lots of decisions to be made with this LB. It's a very specific one compared to something that just provides general use for her or for her teammates. I'd like to take this part of the video to talk about Cetia compared to other missile units, and I think that she compares favorably to other missile units in most stats, and otherwise she's very similar to a lot of units, a lot of missile units in terms of her stats. She does have innate defense and missile penetration, no questions asked. You can just have those on at the start of battle, and she can get even more defense penetration in battle, and I think those are incredibly valuable tools to have access to. She also has a barrier break and a defense break, so she can punch through a lot of different types of units. And speaking of which, I love Ready Player Well. He did a comparison of Cetia, you know, dealing damage to Jeume, and I thought that it was a little bit unfair for a couple of reasons. So one, his Jeume was set up to take on defense attacks, and at the end of the day, I don't think that's how people are setting up their Jeumes. I think they're going to have Demon Wall on. She's going to have less defense than that. But still, she'll have Protect. She's still going to be really, you know, durable. But we're complaining about how Cetia is not doing very much damage to Jeume, a physical tank, but neither is any other missile unit. And I think that's important to be mentioned. It's not like Cetia is the only one that's doing like very little damage to Jeume. I did the same damage calculations with Frederica, with Winter, Victoria, with Lara Croft, all these different units, and it's the same across the board. Like, she's just a physical tank that can really take care of these types of units, and Cetia is going to have to go against Jeume a lot. Hopefully with the fire imperil and in a fire party, they would be able to break through Jeume, but at the end of the day, Jeume's a really good physical tank that's going to be able to tank Cetia, and that's just gonna happen. So yes, it's something to be aware of. Yes, if that turns you off that damage comparison, then yeah, maybe you don't pull for her. But I do think that it was kind of a, you know, not a fair analysis of what she's doing, and especially compared to other missile attackers. The only difference is Jaden, who attacks with Spirit, is going to be doing more damage to Jeume than Cetia, who attacks through defense. Okay, so Cetia does lack an on-kit missile buff, and her missile buff isn't as good as aimed fire, so I really would like to see her paired with another gunner that could supply that, and that could actually be the regular Luartha when she gets to EX. That would be a really fun combination, but it could be in other missile teams as well. Otherwise, she can just get lots of fire attack up buffs from being in a fire party, but I mean, so do lightning teams with Frederica, and Frederica gets a massive aim fire buff. So that is something that I definitely miss from her kit. Her luck stat and the lack of 100% ability is concerning. So her luck is actually similar to a lot of different missile units. However, all of those other missile units have a 100% hit attack. So that's the big difference here. I think the TMR rune system is going to help that a little bit. We also have an evade, she has a luck passive that does give her some accuracy. So just because it doesn't say accuracy on the passive, please check that out, because that will give you a little bit more accuracy, and that will help out a little bit. And another thing with the other gunners and other rangers, a lot of them do have the ranger passive that gives accuracy. So a lot of them, while they have comparable luck stat, dexterity stat to Cetia, they have either 100% hit attacks, and they also have an accuracy passive, and Cetia just didn't get that. So they did shorter a bit in that department. I think that her large AoE is going to be a killer. The fact that it can hit a whole team and no one can reflex her Aeon Bond out of it is really, really nice. Her HP and her access to resistances makes her appealing for arena, where you can target opponents. Again, that's not my personal, style that I would play her as, but it gives you those options. I think it's really cool. But at the end of the day, we have so many attack types in the game right now that it's hard to just be resistant to two of them when you're probably coming up against a lot of different types instead. So it'll be easy for people to hit her weakness, especially in live play. Okay, let's talk pros and cons for Cetia. The pros are that she has high damage potential and innate penetration rocks. Her re-raise removal is going to be really good against a ton of units, and the counter chance reduction, defense break, healing power down, all this stuff, it's all very nice to have on an attacking kit to be able to get through someone like Yuna who has healing, and you want to get that, or people that have reflex, etc., all that kind of stuff. So she also has that massive magic resist and serviceable slash resist if you want to go that route. Berserk and stun are great status effect options, and a barrier break and great buffs on the sniper sub are also very appealing to me. However, she does have some cons. We know that the water meta is coming, and that is going to be a tough time, especially in certain game modes where you can't pick your opponents. We're just going to see a lot of water, and you have to be aware of that. That's not going to last forever, however. So she also has a lack of a solid missile attack buff without her TMR, and I think even with her TMR, it's not as good as aimed fire. She can only use so many buffs at once. So I wish that she had that. I wish she had an accuracy passive on her kit too, but her low luck stat and her low accuracy as a result are also concerning for us in global, because we do have, we have this global evade meta that's a little bit different than what JP had, and we also don't have as good a encounters of hero VC for fire teams. It doesn't provide the accuracy that it does in the JP version, so that kind of affects us as well in terms of pumping up her accuracy. But at the end of the day, I don't think that's a deal breaker unless you're trying to go for the top level of gameplay in this game. I think that otherwise you're going to be just fine using her in so many different modes. And now I'd like to answer the question, should you pull? And I do think most players should be skipping Cetia and saving for Final Fantasy VI and Alstoria. And it doesn't mean that Cetia is bad. I think her timing is really poor. I think she's going to have time to shine in the future. I think that if you got her, you should be super happy that you have her, because she's an amazing unit. However, there's just, and I'm going to make a video about this, there's a lot of decisions that global players have to make. We might have a global exclusive before the 1 year. We're going to have Final Fantasy 14 coming back in a collaboration Final Fantasy VI. We have things like the whole Crystal Warriors that are on their way, the rest of them. There's a ton of choices to make right now, and if you go deep on a banner like this, then it really limits your possibilities for the future. So I think a general tip would be for people to not pull on this banner, but I think the people that will pull on this banner either really like the unit, and then that's great, power to you, or two, you know how to use this unit and you know how you're going to fit it into your account, and you're making the best decision for yourself, in which case that's a fantastic decision. However, I don't think she's a unit that just everyone should flock to and pull for like we've had in the past, so that's why I'm not recommending her to most people. I think she's going to be really fun to work with. I think she's going to have a ton of different ways to build her, playing with her range as well as her TP buffs, and you can completely change her style, because you might want to have that luck passive on and then not have that range passive on, because you have to have the missile penetration, and then without her bigger range, maybe she's going to be using more TP skills and doing some more team buffing, and I think that could be kind of cool as well. So now some of you might be wondering, Mysidia, are you going to be pulling for Cetia because you have a fire account and you love fire units? But I was just in a bad spot in terms, I didn't have enough to pity her. I really have my eye on the FF6 collaboration coming up. How am I possibly supposed to pull for Cetia? And I was kind of stuck. So the other day I was sitting just putting this Balo curse onto Nerd Knight, and after I was done applying the curse, it's a year-long curse, so he's just done for pulls for the next year. I decided to myself, well, I've got all this paid Visior because I've been spending on these different collab packs lately. I'm gonna go do the paid step up for Cetia. I'm gonna go do that whatever that is, like 5-step, 2 of them are free. I'm gonna try to get Cetia, and if I don't get her on that, this is different from my usual style, then I'm not gonna worry about it. I'm just gonna spend that paid Visior and be done with it. And lo and behold, I got her on step 1. Yeah, that's right, I got Cetia on step 1, so I have her. And she's like in EX jobs, and I'm going to be making videos with her. I'm going to be pulling for the Brachiosaur dinosaur next week. I'm super excited for that, and I'm kind of just spending all my Visior, and that's kind of crazy. I'm really excited about it. I'm going to have to pivot big time for my Final Fantasy VI second year anniversary plans, but we'll leave that for when the time comes. But just so you know, I have Cetia, and she's on her way. All right, that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it was useful for you. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you think that Cetia is a skip, if you think that you should pull for her, and if you did pull for her, let me know how it went and what you think about that analysis in terms of comparing her to other missile units. I'm honestly very curious about that. It's a pretty contested thing. I think a lot of people were pretty low on her, but obviously she's not a bad unit. She's a 100 cost unit. So I'm pretty excited to have her, and I'm excited to bring some Cetia videos to you soon. So until then, we'll see you all in the next video.